We want to get up close and personal. Peter's on the block. Today's guest is someone who has long studied Korea's traditional culture, especially its mountains and mountain spirit beliefs, while introducing Korea to the world. Although born in the US, he's lived in Korea for over 4 decades, writing books and giving lectures as a scholar who has explored Korea's spiritual world more deeply than most. We're honoured to welcome Professor David A. Mason here today. Shall we hear from him directly?
여러분 안녕하세요. 데이비드 A. 메이슨입니다. 세종대학교 문화관광학 교수입니다.
Welcome to the show. We've got Jun, Steve, Benny, and more welcoming you back to the studio, Professor Mason. And it's been, I know you couldn't believe it, and I couldn't really believe it. I think it's been more than 10 years since we last met and did a broadcast as well. It was on Travel Bug, I believe.
Yeah.
Which disappeared, I think, around 2015, and I was doing it around 2014. So it's lovely to see you again, Professor.
Yes,
You're looking
great to be here.
very well, I must say. I'm a bit envious of your tan on your arms as well, because our senior writer, wanted to get you on the show earlier, but she told us that you've been away. So where have you been?
I was in the tropics. I have a retirement house now down in the center of the Philippines.
Nice.
Where I like to spend summers and winters swimming in the ocean.
Oh, that sounds like the life, doesn't it? I went to the Philippines for the first time in January, February, so escaping the cold winter here was amazing. And we went to Cebu. And it was so beautiful.
Right.
The skies there, the weather as well. You're living the right life, I feel.
And it's very friendly people.
Yes.
And easygoing culture.
Yeah, everything was so laid back. And you do exactly what my uncle does. Well, not exactly. He visits us quite often. He's from the UK, but he'll never come in summer or winter. He will refuse. He says the weather is just not to his joints' taste. Yeah.
Well, yeah. These summers are brutal here in Korea, and people do have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
It's just maybe starting to get better now.
Yes, exactly.
For the autumn.
The nighttime temperatures, at least. The daytime's still getting up to 30 degrees. And so you have been on ARIRANG Radio, I'm assuming, more times than you can probably count over the years, right?
I suppose.
Yeah. But for any listeners who don't know you, what is your main thing? How do you introduce yourself when you first meet people, Professor?
Well, I'm somebody who got fascinated with Korea and became a scholar of the history of Korean religions, which is not very practical field, you might say, but then I took it into the tourism field in order to do something really useful with all this knowledge and not be in an ivory tower. But I've always been concerned with getting this information out to the global public about Korea, about what's fascinating, and trying to be accurate about it.
Wow. How did you first get interested, though? Did you first come here and then get interested, or before you set foot in Korea, you were interested in the country?
The prior, really, well, I was interested in China since high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we didn't know much about East Asia back in the 1970s, to tell you the truth. But we had a chapter about China in high school, and I really got interested in this entire alternative civilization and a whole different part of the world that we really didn't know about. And back then, like, the only American who'd ever been to China was Richard Nixon, Kissinger. And so I studied more about China as I could, and then at the University of Michigan, I moved out to San Francisco, where they had a Chinatown. And finally just got inspired to become one of those Lonely Planet backpacker type guys and try to get to China, and just jumped on an airplane to Hong Kong with nothing but a backpack and $1,000 in my pocket, and got to Hong Kong and found that you still couldn't get into China. So I was traveling around the edges of China, shall we say, the various countries, the islands and such around China. And Discovered Korea eventually.
Okay.
And I was living in Taiwan for 6 months trying to learn some language and such. But then I came up and took a look at Korea and said, whoa, what's this place?
And then since then, that was when, in the 1980s?
1982.
Wow.
July. And I didn't know anything about Korea, I realized. I had vaguely heard of a Korean War. Nobody knew anything. And there were hardly any foreigners here.
Yeah.
It was, people don't know this, maybe it was a pariah country back then, like South Africa was, or like Burma or something today, where it was boycotted. People didn't go there for tourism. It was considered an ugly country and violent and a very nasty government. And so nobody was here. So it was very easy to get an English teaching job.
Oh, wow. There was a demand for that.
Really needed people.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Native speakers. They had very few.
Wow.
There were only the U.S. soldiers, but they mostly were staying on their base down at Yongsan. And downtown, you'd hardly ever see another foreigner in those days. But you did see soldiers with guns out on the street and machine gun nests once in a while.
Goodness.
Tank parked in front of a university, maybe. It was a repressed government of military dictatorship, fascism, really. And this is not so well remembered, at least by the international community, how bad this was.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised. I didn't know anything about this or why it was like this.
If I was in your shoes, I don't think I would have seen that and then stuck around. I would have been rather worried and scared.
Some people left in a hurry the first time they smelled tear gas.
Sure.
And saw the billy clubs and such. But I got interested in the mountains and things outside of the cities.
Oh, wow.
That was a whole different scene and so much better. And then, of course, we had the democracy revolution, started by like the end of 85 and built up and climaxed in 1987. I got to witness that entire thing, which was thrilling.
Wow.
We peacefully overthrew that dictatorship, and the common people accomplished democracy. It was a wonderful thing. And then it was like the clouds went out of the sky and the sun was shining in the blue and a nice breeze blowing. By 1988, we're holding the Olympics, and suddenly everything's different, and the world accepts South Korea. The world comes to South Korea. North Korea gets ignored, falls from popularity, and suddenly everything's so different. We start getting human rights and a functional society in a much, much better way, and great improvement.
In such a short span of time, things just really changed. But like you said, you got into the mountains and getting out of the city and things like that. What attracted you to that? Were you always into nature and things when you were living back in the States as well?
Yes, in the United States, I was a Boy Scout.
Oh, nice.
I learned to hike and camp.
Yeah.
And the first times I went out to like Rocky Mountains.
Wow.
And places really big, great mountains. Later in California, going to Yosemite and such. I was really in love with these deep nature. And I found that in Korea. Great hiking, fantastic national parks, wonderful landscapes. And then also, because my interest in China had led me to be interested in Buddhism, Taoism, Asian shamanism, and even the like Neo-Confucianism, such. And I found these things in those beautiful mountains, all that cultural places, shrines, sacred sites. So I got hooked very quickly with just traveling around in the mountains, which is so different from urban Korea, very, very downtown Seoul and all that, very, very different, and so much better in my mind. And I just loved it. After 1 year, I got out of Seoul City. And I lived out in the mountains and the countryside for 2 decades.
Goodness, just out in the sticks in the countryside.
way back when, in the 80s, Seoul City had traffic jams and pollution, and it was really in bad condition. It's become a much, much better city to live in now. And now I'm a happy urbanite right in the middle of the city. But for 20 years, I stayed out in the mountains, avoiding the big city, and just enjoying, like, Gyeongju, the ancient capital. And I lived in Gangwon-do for 13 years, you know, those eastern mountains.
Yeah, the Taebaeksan range, the mountain range over there.
There were good university jobs in places like that.
Nice.
And you could really just live the good life and experience Korea without the big city blues.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I think, come to Korea and maybe they didn't know, but they'll soon find out that it's very mountainous because you've got mountains in the cities as well, and there's really convenient hiking. But I don't think many of those people then jump into, like, the spiritual side of things. So your book, The Spirit of the Mountains, is known as, like, one of the first works to introduce Korea's mountains and mountain spirit culture to the world. And I remember in Travel Bug speaking to you, and, you know, I'm half Korean and I've been here so many times since the 80s as well. I had no idea about that aspect of Korea's traditional culture and, like, the spiritual side of mountains. So what motivated you to write that? But also, how did you find out about all of that?
Well, I found out about it simply by hiking and checking out the shrines and temples when I was there, and discovering at almost every Buddhist temple and at all the shamanic shrines and such, a mountain spirit shrine with a painting or a statue or both, and wondering, what is this? And very attracted to it because the way it combines Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism with shamanistic roots, and it is a very attractive figure of nature. It has mountains and waterfalls and red pine trees in the painting, and a tiger, a friendly Korean tiger, pretty folkish, and the king figure himself, who looks wise, like a man of wisdom. And the combination of all that, of just kind of a portrait of humanity living in harmony with nature, really attracted me. And then I wondered about this. I mean, well, what is this and why? And maybe there's like 20,000 of these mountain spirit shrines around South Korea. At least 20,000, at least. I'm sure. And I saw dozens of them, and I wanted to know more about it, and so started searching for a book to read. But there really was very little available. There was not that much about traditional Korean culture in English that had been written in modern times and was accurate and positive and all. Most of the writing back then had just been done by Christian missionaries at the beginning of the 20th century, with obviously a bit of a negative attitude towards the things I was interested in. So then I was searching, and I got the idea to find the best Korean book about the mountain spirit, about Sanchin, written by some Korean professor. Let's say the very best book, and I would get a deal with the publisher and with my translator girlfriend at that time. We would translate it to English and put out an English edition with my photos in it, and make an English version, official permission and all. And we searched and searched and searched all the libraries and universities and such. There was no book.
Even in Korean?
There was no book in Korean. Nobody had ever bothered to write the book, even though there's 20,000 of these shrines, and it's very central to Korean culture. Nobody had ever done it. Just mentions, like a one-page mention in a chapter about folklore. Just such a no book at all. And finally, my mentor, the guy who was elder Korean who was really advising me on these things, just said, "Look, you got to write the book.
That's your job.
From scratch. You are assigned to do this." So I spent a decade doing that, putting it together. So just from legwork, from field research, just going around talking to people, taking photos, finding the reality. And I created the book by 1999.
That's an amazing story.
The government judged it as Book of the Year about
nice.
Korean culture. That was cool.
That's amazing.
And then they translated my book into Korean.
Oh, really?
They paid a professional translator, used my same photos, put it out in Korean. It's still at the bookstores today. It's still the main book in the Korean language about the topic of mountain spirits. That's weird, isn't it?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's a neglected sphere, it seems, for scholars then. Why do you think that is? Because, I don't know, I guess your average young Korean won't know too much about the sanshins. They've definitely heard of them and maybe learnt a bit in school, but they don't go too deep into them. No. Is it something that is dying out, or is it something that just is kind of assumed to be covered, you know, to a deep enough extent? It doesn't need to go further.
It goes very deep. Now, I wrote hundreds of pages about it, and my second edition will probably be 400.
Wow.
But the thing is, what was funny, when I was first here in the 80s and being an English teacher for adults and university students, and they told me it no longer existed. They kept, all classes insisted vehemently, we don't do that anymore. That's an old thing, but it's wiped out. We are now a modernized country and well-educated people. There's no more shamanism, and nobody believes in the mountain spirit. And I believed them at first, because of course you believe the native people of a country when they're telling you about their own country. But then in hiking, by the late 80s, I'm finding newly built mountain spirit shrines, repaired or rebuilt, newly built things. And I'm like, well, why? Why would somebody, this is expensive, you know, it's like $200,000 in expenses of construction and artwork and all. And why would somebody do this if nobody believes in this anymore? And then into the 1990s, finding more and more and bigger and better mountain spirit shrines all around, including gigantic paintings much bigger than was ever in the Joseon dynasty.
Goodness.
So it began really hitting me that, wait a minute, this is not going away at all. This is flourishing.
Yeah. Wow. And so who is doing this? Because, it's not maybe your average youngster. And I've heard, there are pockets of this. And I've also seen it personally in some more wealthy families who believe in that shamanism a bit more, and maybe they don't shout it from the rooftops, but it does seem to be something that certain families still hold really close to them.
Koreans are pretty shy about it, I do think. Part of the obsession with being seen as modernized and educated. So we don't believe in that anymore. And the Christianity here that is very strong and very much opposed to these traditional spirituality. People don't talk about it, but so many people actually do it. It is famous at temples that the mountain spirit shrine often gets more money in donations than the Buddha does.
Oh, really?
Than the main Buddha hall.
Wow.
That many monks have told me so, and I have records going back to 1886.
Goodness.
I have a record from a missionary that states that very fact that he discovered. This has long been true. People go there, they bow, they donate. Clearly, they believe. We think there is something like 100,000 shamans operating. When I say we, I mean scholars of this sort of thing. 100,000 shamans operating in this country, full-time or pretty heavy part-time, operating as shamans. Well, somebody is their customer. Though you'll never meet a Korean who confesses to it, who says that we visit a shaman, our family, we did this, or my company president goes to a shaman for the good fortune. But somebody is the customers of 100,000 shamans and is supporting them. It is unrecognized by the government. It's not even legal in most of Korea.
Oh, really?
The Ministry of Culture and Tourism very much ignores mountain spirits and dragon kings and most of the shamanism happening. They just pretend it it isn't there and isn't happening, again, out of this sense of shame, which I think is quite misplaced.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but by God, it's everywhere.
Yeah, so if you're going to these temples, and there are temples in so many of Korea's mountains, even the one just across the street, you can get to a temple within like 10 minutes from ARIRANG.
Sure.
Do lots of them then incorporate these mountain spirits and mountain shrines? And is that part of Buddhism, or is that just like a Korean thing?
It's natively a Korean thing, the mountain spirit, which got adapted by Chinese Taoism also, because Chinese Taoism is mountain spirits and earth spirits. So the way that they did their artwork, starting more than 1,000 years ago, had influenced the creation of artworks here in Korea. And shamanism mixed together with Chinese Taoism produced this very strong belief and practice and the very strong artworks, such in a very interesting way. Also at temples, there's figures like the Chilsung, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, and the Yongwang, the Dragon King, which I am currently writing a book about.
Oh, wow.
Nearly finished.
Amazing.
A new book that'll be just as big as my Mountain Spirit book, I think, and it'll be like 400 pages about the Dragon Kings and dragon images around Korea, because those are so strong. Now, that came from China, mixed together with Korean shamanism, and became a native Korean belief. And then shamanism Buddhism as a formal religion, but it had to make itself Korean style.
Yeah.
It was conspicuously an imported foreign religion at first, and Koreans, you know how they feel, very nationalistic and very attached to their own culture, and they were like, hey, we got our own mountain spirits and native gods and such, and we don't need something from foreigners. So to Koreanize the Buddhism, they started making mountain spirit shrines and dragon shrines and such in the temples.
Wow.
And that continues to today to be a very characteristic Korean aspect of the Buddhist temples. Now, some Buddhist monks and Buddhist masters went against this historically and saying we should just have a pure Buddhism. There should be no Taoism, no shamanism in our temples. But that is a minority view that has pretty much failed. There was a big surge of it in the 80s to 90s maybe, but then it really kind of failed, and by now most all Buddhists, including the monks and such, very much accept these native Korean elements in their religion.
I guess it's nice to have something to make us distinct as well. We in Korea really do love that. We'll get to a song break, Professor, and be back after that. So you've chosen this track from Kim Kwang-sok, Namu, Tree. What's the reason behind that?
I like this song. A friend of mine turned me on to it, and I like it. It's about how we connect with nature, how we see the existence, the being of like a great tree in the mountains, and we can merge our own spirit with that and feel refreshed and renewed and feel better, which is something I've always been on in Korea about, getting out of the big city and all of its stress and problems and go out to the mountains, and it's recreation. You recreate your spirit. And the Koreans you meet out there are so much friendlier than they are in the city.
Indeed.
For obvious reasons, both the villagers and the fellow mountain hikers and the Buddhist monks. And so this song, Tree, Namu, it just captures that spirit in a wonderful way.
Here we go. And we're back for part 2 of Peters on the Block today with Professor David A. Mason in the studio. Lots of really interesting questions coming in. So we'll start off with Jun, who has asked, what is your favourite Korean mountains to visit? And that's linked to what our writer wanted you to mention. If you had to pick a top 3. If you had to. I know it's difficult.
Well, everybody knows, like, the most beautiful, like, let's say, Soraksan and Sognisan and Wulchulsan, the most beautiful craggy scenery. But I would like to emphasize a few mountains that are culturally interesting, that have the most greatest kind of religious spiritual value.
Yeah.
Whatever. So let's say Jirisan.
Oh, they've got the national park there, yeah.
First national park, and still maybe the greatest, but so culturally rich.
Wow.
100 different religious sites around that one mountain.
Wow.
100 representing like 6 different religions.
That's
it's
amazing.
unique in the world. Then I would mention Gyeongsan, pretty close to Seoul, only an hour away by KTX, and a fantastic, again, really spiritual mountain with a lot of shamanism, a very strong Buddhism, and beautiful scenery. And then there's Taebaeksan, a newly made a national park, relatively newly, 7-8 years ago, that is a deeply spiritual mountain with a real Korean spirit, a lot of shamanism all around it, and a deep reverence from the Korean people. Everybody's heard of it, at least, although it's pretty remote to get to, and not very many foreigners ever go there, but you want to see some real deep Korea, true Korea, Taebaeksan.
Oh, fantastic. And a lot of these religious sites and the temples and whatnot on the mountains, you're free to just like stroll into them. I mean, some of them take admission fees, some of the temples, and some are just
generally not anymore. Even Bulguksa in Gyeongju is free. Our most touristed temple. But generally, these things are public sites, like a Christian church, too. You are free to walk in as long as you're polite and you obey the rules. Well, sometimes they say no photos inside certain buildings, and got to respect that. And now sometimes some temples or shaman shrines do regard themselves as more private, and you come walking in the entrance and they may just wave at you and say, no.
Oh, really?
No, go away. And then you just go away. All right. But most of the time, you are welcome in such places.
Yeah. I've been to several temples where they're actually extra friendly if you're a foreign tourist, and they might come and ask you to have a cup of tea with them as well.
Definitely, yes. To offer you a meal.
Yeah.
A little discussion.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you just get out there and give it a try, like Professor said, there might be some that will turn you away, but the majority shouldn't. Sherry's saying, what an interesting history lesson we're having today. You're a great storyteller, and I sure would like to read your books. And you've released multiple books at this point, Professor.
Yes, I've published 10, and number 11 is getting finished these days and should be out by November, the book on the Dragon Kings.
Fantastic. A Christmas present on your gift list. Put that out there. Where can people keep up to date with you, Professor? What's the best platform and the way to find you?
My Facebook page, which is pretty easy to find, I think, David A. Mason. The A has no period on it. Or my tag on Facebook is MNTNWOLF, Mountain Wolf.
Oh, nice.
And I think I'm easy to find.
Yeah.
Many, many followers. And I keep posting stuff that I discover about Korean culture, and sometimes offer some public tours or lecture events and things like that. And of course, I announce my publications.
Fantastic.
There. And I also have my own website, which is sanshinsun.com. SANSHINSEON. Sanshinsun.com. It means mountain spirit immortal.
Oh.
And there I just started it really, and I'm collecting things on there. Also under the title of Sanshinsun is my YouTube channel now.
Oh, great.
I have that where it's not a big deal, but videos that I make out in the mountains, videos of shaman performances and mountain spirit ceremonies, and some lectures that I have done for various organizations, up to 2 hours long, videos of all that. That's on YouTube.
Oh, a great resource, I'm sure. Leon from Singapore, who always puts a lot of effort into his questions, says, you describe the Baekdu Daegan as the spiritual backbone of Korea. How does its cultural and geomantic significance influence contemporary tourism and the nation's identity? I'm sure you could write a dissertation on this, but a brief answer.
That's a long. Now, the Baekdu Daegan, for people who don't know, means the great ridge that goes through, unbroken through all of South Korea, the ridge line of peaks and ridges that water never crosses. So it starts at Jirisan in the south, near the south coast, and goes all the way snaking up through the country, and then along the east coast into the hiking trail now stops at the DMZ. So 735 kilometers capable of hiking in South Korea. And then, of course, the Baekdu Daegan itself goes all the way through North Korea to Baekdusan on the border with China, the great volcano mountain up there. So it is essentially the spine of Korea, the geographical spine. It is a strong kind of image of the unity, the fundamental unity of this peninsula, despite the political divisions, that it really is just one peninsula and one chain of mountains. And every mountain or hill in Korea connects into the Baekdu Daegan. They branches and branches more and branches endlessly times to all the minor mountains around. So theoretically, you can just walk along a ridge from any peak to the higher peaks and ultimately to this great ridge line. And the whole thing is a hiking trail in the middle of the country then for 735 kilometers. Myself and some good friends from New Zealand did a great book back in 2010 to describe how to hike that trail, and Roger Shepard still updates that book and offers new versions and digital versions, and it has become rather famous due to our efforts at a long-distance hiking trail of the world, like the Appalachian Trail of America or certain things in Europe or what that people can do. And it's very safe and it's very pleasant and very great villages and Buddhist temples all along the way. So it's a great way to get to know Korea. It's culturally important because it contains a lot of the really great temples and spiritual places at the highest great mountains. And it was traditionally the border between like the Shilla Kingdom, the Baekje Kingdom, and so the Okje stayed on the east coast and the Goguryeo Kingdom up north. It helped form the borders geographically of Korea, and so it still represents cultural differences on either side of the Baekdu Daegan.
Wow. And I mean, now, what I feel like, we say in Korean, like, 피부로 I feel firsthand the difference is you go through a few tunnels that will take you out to the east coast, and you go through like the Taebaek mountain range, which is part of this, right? And the weather can be completely different, right, on the other side. You pop out and it's like, this seems like a different country or something like that. And we're having severe droughts like in Gangneung at the moment, whereas the rest of the country is getting like torrential downpours. It's unbelievable, but that makes total sense that would have been the border between kingdoms and countries.
It's a divider. And still, but like the Honam region of the Jeolla provinces versus the Gyeongsang provinces, which some have different political leanings even. And such, and the Baekdu Daegan is what divides them. And so it's fascinating place to explore for the international people who come here if you want to really get to see some deep inner Korea. Take a little hike. You don't have to do the whole thing, of course, but just take a weekend and hike some part of the Baekdu Daegan. Yeah,
you'll be straddling that border, so to speak. Professor Mason, this has been wonderful hearing about all of the knowledge that you've built up over these decades. As part of Peters on the Block, though, we have a weekly quiz for our special guest. And our writer tries her best to have a quiz question, which is appropriately challenging. We don't want it to be too easy.
All right.
We don't want it to be too hard, but you have the choice to decline the quiz, right? I will tell you this, that until now, no one has declined it because they just want to give it a try. There's no booby prize, but there are good prizes if you get it right, okay?
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Just noting that there are some things about Korea that I know a whole lot about, and there are many things about Korea that I have no idea about, so it all depends on the topic of your question. So let's go ahead.
Absolutely. Okay, and I can also give you some comforting statistics that I think about 1 in 3 gets it wrong anyway, despite it being supposedly in their wheelhouse. So no pressure at all, Professor. Okay. All right, here is your question. What is the name of Korea's highest mountain? And when I say Korea, I do mean the Republic of Korea, South Korea, standing at 1,947 meters above sea level. Oh, wait a sec. That is the dummy question. Oh, my goodness. Our writer is trying to catch you up.
Hallasan.
It is Hallasan. So we'll give you a ding-dong-ding for that.
Yes.
And it can be confusing because obviously, like you said, Paektusan is the highest on the whole Korean peninsula, right?
1950 meters, or at least 49.
Oh.
It can be controversial.
Yeah, maybe
especially when the snow is piled up on the peak, it's higher. And Jirisan is the highest one on the mainland at 1915, the Chunwangbong Peak.
Oh, wow. Yes. That's pretty close to Hallasan's highest. Well, I didn't know.
Close.
Yeah.
It's close. And it's highest on the mainland, just 30 meters less.
Yeah, I did not know that. You've been down to Jeju, obviously, then, and seen Hallasan down there. Does that have a decent amount of cultural... Because it's very different, isn't it?
Very much. And it's a different culture.
Yeah.
Historically, really was quite different.
Yeah.
And then they were terribly suppressed during the 20th century and kind of very forcibly incorporated into the Republic of Korea in, let's say, the 60s through the 80s. By the 90s, they got some autonomy and some apology for bad things that had happened and got their own more cultural autonomy and policy autonomy. So they've been rediscovering their own native culture and making displays of it for tourism and about their history and such, and it's really quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's very different, isn't it? I've heard. We used to have the segment "What's Up in Jeju," where you can learn more if you listen again. So the real question, our writer says, in the massive Himalayas, home to Mount Everest and other peaks over 8,000 meters, there is a Korean mountaineering legend who became the first Korean to climb all 16 peaks over 8,000 meters and even built a school in the region. Yeah. Who is that person?
I've heard of him. I've seen his photo.
Yeah.
I do not remember the name. I'll bet it's Kim something.
I would have bet on that as well.
But I do not remember the name. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. You will get the... Still, because of your information for the mountains on Korea, his name was Daejang.
Daejang.
That's it. Family name Captain
Yes.
So, Professor, because you gave us even more extra information on Mount Hallasan and Mount Jirisan, I would like you to pick out a prize ball, okay? Go for anything. There are some good prizes in here, like vouchers for a cafe and whatnot, but there are some pretty awful ones, like a selfie with me. I do apologise if you get that. Would you like me to read out what you've won, Professor? Okay. No cheating, I promise.
Choice. Yes.
휴대용 미니 손톱깎이 and 귀여게 set. So this is a nail cutter and ear cleaning set that you have won, a portable one, which our producer brings straight into the studio. Congratulations, Professor. I do apologise. That's not one of the better ones, but it looks cute. I hope you like cats. It's got a cat graphic on there. And anyone who did not watch the video stream and was just listening today, please do check out the video stream because Professor Mason is wearing an unbelievable shirt, which we failed to mention earlier. This is like a Joseon Dynasty painting, is it?
Yes.
That you can find like in a temple or dedicated to mountain spirits,
museum. From the National Museum. I photographed the images and sent it in and had this shirt done.
It looks absolutely spectacular, Professor. Would you like to tell us, before you leave then, your plans for the future? So the book on the Dragon King is coming out in November, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And then you've got a whole series of books that you're looking to write as well after that?
Yeah, some of my previous books, I'm going to do a second revised edition. Wow. I think the next to come up will be the Encyclopedia of Korean Buddhism, because it's no longer in print and there's a strong public demand. And I'll put it out like maybe 50% bigger than the original one was. It was 650 pages before, and we'd also like to get that out in a digital version. That'd be something very useful that people could have on their tablet or their phone, something as have an encyclopedia of Korean Buddhism. If you enjoy visiting temples and dealing with it, you can just look anything up quickly, so working on the technology of that.
Wow.
So projects like that.
All lined up in the future. So as Professor Baser said, keep up to date on his Facebook page for the latest updates. Also, check him out on YouTube too. A final greeting to our listeners, Professor, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, 안녕히 가십시오. Wherever you are, enjoy yourself, and if you're not in Korea, please come visit us. We're maybe setting a new tourism record this year, which is something that makes me very happy. The recovery after coronavirus, we're back to the 2019 levels, and come and enjoy, because Korea is just hotter than ever. With great events, and now this K-pop Demon Hunters has made a whole new wave of interest, including in traditional culture themes. And there's all kinds of great festivals and activities and wonderful things to do in this country. And if you are here and listening, if you're one of the residents and such, well, remember to get out the door. Take your weekend and go take that KTX train and that long-distance bus and go visit that national park you've been thinking about. They're all worthwhile.
Fantastic message. I need to take that on board as well. I always say I'm going to go where the kids and never do. Professor, thank you so much for coming in, and I'm sure we will cross paths in the future again. Good luck moving ahead.